WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681, offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
And welcome. And welcome into another edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Musso filling in for Hunt today. Hunt's taking the long weekend. His family and well-deserved. He'll be back with you here on Tuesday. Of course, all of us off on Monday for Memorial Day. Jacob Beck, Cassie Spazzali, along for the ride with us here. And glad you are with me as well. We have a lot to get to today. Obviously, you know we're going to talk a lot of LSU baseball. The Tigers advanced to Saturday, furthering their case in the winner's bracket of the SEC tournament. Just a wild game last night against the South Carolina Gamecocks. In fact, the replay of it's on in studio right now. It's 6-6 in the fifth. Gee, I wonder what's going to happen. So we'll go through that plenty. Chris DeMui will be here at 1:30 in his weekly spot. We'll talk plenty of baseball with DeMui, Preston Guy in the next segment to talk some LSU football. And a couple different things I want to explore with the New Orleans Saints today as well. One breakout player, or I should say potential breakout player that could flourish in Clint Kubiak's offense that I kind of want to dive into. And then Ross Jackson, of course, Locked On Saints. He'll be with us as well at 2:30. So we are locked and loaded. Plenty to get to. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp, and ready to go. Let's start with LSU baseball defeating South Carolina 11-10 last night in Hoover. Also, the SEC tournament finally became the SEC tournament last night. It's just a random aside. You had games go long. I mean, Vanderbilt and Mississippi State were still playing almost to midnight last night, and that just felt right in the world, as does LSU making a run to the semifinals feel right in the world. It's the LSU Invitational, right, that they play over there in Hoover. So I have thoughts on the game and then kind of what it means big picture. And then we can look, obviously have a preview of Saturday a little bit later on in the show, but start with the game and then big picture. Main takeaway from the game last night was the bottom of LSU's order. It was incredibly impactful in that game. It is the reason that game was not a blowout. Because LSU they didn't pitch well. They pitched good enough, but they didn't pitch well. Like when you look at how LSU has been going on the mound down the stretch in this season, really, at least what I've been talking about on Musso at the Box, since getting run ruled against Vanderbilt. So the Tennessee series on, you really started to see improvement from LSU on the mound. And down the stretch here, the back half of SEC play in this SEC tournament, they've been borderline dominant on the mound. They weren't last night, but they made pitches when they had to. They continued to win tipping points. That's another conversation that's been talked about plenty with this LSU team. Early in the season, when you were losing the heartbreaker against Florida in game 2, when you couldn't hold on in extra innings against Arkansas in game 2, the Alabama, like tipping points, the Southern game, tipping points throughout, you lost them, the key moment. You didn't do that last night, and the pitching contributed to in allowing that to happen. And ultimately, when I look at that and I say, okay, that's a game last night that LSU does not win a month ago. But even with the pitching winning those tipping points, without the bottom of the order, 6, 7, 8, and 9, Milam, Brown, Larson, Milazzo going 9 for 19 and driving in 5 of your 11 runs, South Carolina runs away with that game. And that's going to be the part of a larger conversation that we have in a minute. But it's not just the fact that they were 9 for 19 and drove in 5 runs that made them so impactful. That's obviously part of it. But it's when it happened. Stephen Milam's first hit of the game drives in the first run of the game. He sets the tone, a freshman at the bottom of your order. In the 4th inning, After you fall behind 5-1 in the bottom of the third, you need some type of response. It starts in the middle of the order, but it's the bottom of the order that provided the catalyst. After back-to-back doubles, I should say, by Pearson and Travinsky, that's when Milam comes up with his second hit of the day. And then Jake Brown, a freshman, follows him with a 2-run homer to tie the game. In the ninth inning, who got the hit to start the rally in the ninth inning? Stephen Milam, his fourth of the day. And then Jake Brown followed that with another single to put 2 on with nobody out. They are the reason the game was close. They are the reason you had a chance to even win that game and weren't run off the field. It was massively, massively impactful. And I said it's part of a much larger conversation, and that's kind of where I want to go to now, because LSU won 11-10. It was a great, gritty performance. They fought hard. They didn't quit. They picked up their pitching staff when they needed to. I will say that looked like a Jay Johnson offense that you have seen plenty in his first 2 years and some change here. Really, the first 2 years. You haven't seen them look like that at all this year. At least not with the consistency that they have over the last 5 games. LSU, the question everybody wants to know now is this sustainable? Or is this just a fun week in Hoover? I 100% believe this is sustainable. And it is now because of the offense. Think back to the conversations that we had about this LSU baseball team all the way back when they hit the field for fall practice, all the way back in late October, early November. You knew what you were replacing in the lineup. We don't have to run through it. You know the names. And the conversation revolved around the pitching staff being the strength of this team, and they can hold the line for you while the offense finds its way. And when it all comes together, they have a chance to be a really good baseball team, right? You'll win on the mound, probably a lot of low-scoring games, but you're deep there. You're deeper there than you were in 2023. That was the conversation. The offense will find it eventually, and you have a chance to be a really good baseball team. And early on in this season, not to rehash it all, but you know what happened. The pitching staff struggled while the offense sputtered and tried to find itself. You lost tipping points. You lost key games. The pitching staff came about. They look like the strength of your team. They are the reason you were able to start going on this run. It's funny how that works when the perceived strength of your team actually becomes the strength of your team. Funny how success follows in that regard, right? And now look at your offense. You went from against Missouri and Auburn and A&M to just kind of finding that timely hit when you needed it and giving enough to your bullpen to LSU's offense winning games like last night, like putting up 11 against Kentucky. LSU has scored 11 runs in 2 consecutive games against SEC opponents. I don't need to tell you, that is by far the first time that's happened this season. It's only the 4th time they've scored double-digit runs against an SEC opponent in general. But do you realize in LSU's last 4 games against conference foes, their low mark in scoring is 9? The conversation we talked about in the fall, in the preseason, in the spring, it's finally here. LSU have their struggles on the mound. They will bounce back. They're getting thin right now. They're playing deeper into this tournament. They will bounce back. I'm not really concerned about that. But I'm excited and encouraged that now the offense is here. Because with what you saw down the stretch from the pitching staff, add in the offense, they look like a really good baseball team, don't they? And that's absolutely sustainable going forward. And what has been the change in the offense has been the bottom of the order. You've seen Alex Milazzo in the 9-hole come through with some really big hits down the stretch for LSU. It's been his bat, not his glove, that's made all the difference in the world, which is completely the opposite from his entire career at LSU. And what was great about last night's game is Milazzo didn't have a great night behind the plate. But he didn't let it affect his bat, and he continued to come through when you needed him. Center field has been the biggest revolving door on the team for LSU. I'm not telling you Jake Brown has completely earned that spot, but he's definitely earned another start. You finally saw something from him that you'd heard about for so long last night. And then Stephen Milam's just been incredibly consistent. Ashton Larson's had a rough tournament so far, but look at the sample size from him over this year. He'll bounce back. LSU ended up with 11 runs on 13 hits last night, and Tommy White went 0 for 6. That is the biggest endorsement you can look at in the changing in this offense. They've settled on their lineup, and they're getting production 1 through 9. And it's starting to look how it should with a Jay Johnson-led team on the offensive side. So a major credit to them, but that was the missing piece of the puzzle for me down the stretch was the offense. And now it's gone from them, like I said, not just coming up with that timely hit when you need it, but actually helping you win games, winning you baseball games. You do that consistently now, Saturday, and then into the NCAA tournament, and you can absolutely make a run. How far? We'll see. A lot of that depends on draw and things of that nature. But with the way they're playing now, with the complementary baseball that they're finally playing, everything seems to be coming together at the right time for this team, and they will absolutely have their chance to make a run. So LSU will play Saturday at noon against the winner of Kentucky and South Carolina. We can get you a little bit of a thumbnail on that a little bit later on if we have some time too. I mean, we'll walk you kind of right up to first pitch of that game. But it's going to be interesting. The way LSU's got to set up their pitching going forward in this tournament, like, it'd be great for them to win it, but that's going to be a really uphill battle for them. They're getting thin. I mean, you had to use a lot of guys last night, and it wasn't necessarily just short stints. But what was great, and you know what, I meant to say this earlier when we were talking, that game last night felt reminiscent of something you would have seen last year from LSU, where the pitching wasn't great, but they were good enough. And what I mean by that is it was a weird night on the mound because everything kind of, each guy got off to a really good start, and then the wheels kind of fell off. Happened to Thatcher Hurd. It happened to Nate Ackenhausen. Well, Nate Ackenhausen's first pitch was actually hit out for a grand slam, but he was in a really tough situation there. He settled in after that, and then the wheels fell off. Christian Little came in, got you 2 big outs to keep the game tied, and then the wheels fell off. You did enough, just like you would have last year. You gave up a lot of runs, but everybody made a big pitch somewhere along the line, and then Fidel Ulloa, stabilized the game. But your offense answered immediately. Any single time LSU went down. The 5 spot in the third, LSU 4 spot in the fourth. South Carolina single run to tie it in the fifth, LSU single run to retake the lead in the sixth. All night long. So you're going to need more of that. Like how you saw LSU win. If they are to make a run and win this tournament, you're going to need more of games like you saw last night because you are getting thin on the mound. Because Luke Holman, Gage Jump, they're done. They're not pitching again this weekend. So eventually you'll get to a point where it's going to be heavy bullpen days and maybe some guys you haven't seen pitch in a very, very long time. We can get into more of that as the show rolls along. Again, Chris DeMui will be here at the bottom of this hour. Let's grab a break. We will come back on the other side. Preston Guy here in his weekly spot. We'll talk some LSU football with Preston next here on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has got fans covered for the biggest moments on the road to a championship. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place to find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the playoffs. Look, if you're trying to get some money down, looking at the playoffs on either sport, ESPN Bet is absolutely your spot. Here's the deal. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't hit. So right now, download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. In partnership with LeBears Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
When things heat up, you don't just want a cold one. You want the coldest one. The cold lagered, cold filtered, cold packaged one. Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today. Or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or
Charles Hannegriff, join us for the Tuesday edition of Live at Lunch from Mike Anderson Seafood, Wesley at Nicholson. We are taking the Memorial Day holiday. We'll be back on Tuesday getting you ready for the NCAA tournament. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Tuesday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Back here on the Hunt Palmer Show, Musso filling in for Hunt today. Hunt's back on Tuesday. Of course, we're all off on Memorial Day, so whole staff taking the day off there. And hopefully you have a great weekend as well. Right now, though, even though Hunt's not here, we'll still visit with Preston Guy in his normal spot here on a Friday. Of course, covers LSU football and recruiting over at tigerbait.com. He is on Twitter at PGuy77. Preston, we appreciate the time. How are you?
Hey, Matt. What's going on? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. We're just making it through a Friday, trying to get ourselves to a long weekend. Let's dive into LSU, and I did want to get your thoughts. I know we were kind of texting earlier about a potential change coming to signing day, but let's start with LSU football. Brian Kelly has been making the rounds with a lot of sit-down interviews around whether it was, with Michael Cobbler, Jacques Doucet. He recently did one with Scott Rabelais and mentioned that they were done at defensive tackle, but still in the portal at other positions. What positions might that be? Where should our eyes be focused there?
Well, I'll tell you what, the Trey Holly situation got a lot more complicated as the judge presiding over his case recused himself for some sort of personal connection. So that case is now going to be in limbo a lot longer. It's been delayed. So it sounds like, okay, well, they can reinstate him while this legal process is going on, but that would be, I don't know if it's completely unprecedented, but I cannot remember a circumstance where a football player was reinstated under that circumstance. So running back definitely could be a spot to look at. And then punter actually could be a spot. You know, Peyton Todd has not provided the consistency that they really are looking for. You know, he has a booming leg, but they really need him to be just on point. You know, he has a few too many shanks and whatnot, and they really want him to be his best self. So they might look for a punter to bring in and at least push him for that starting spot. Outside of that, I believe they have right now, after JVR Suggs, they have 3 more spots open, and I think it would be best available outside of that. So you can add to your roster.
You know, it's interesting you bring up punter and special teams because obviously Brian Kelly, I mean, he went on the record with their kind of, I mean, for a lack of a better term, displeasure with Peyton Todd so far in the lack of consistency. Special teams has been under the microscope easily in the first 2 years of Brian Kelly's tenure and going into year 3. What do you kind of make of that unit overall? Because it's been oddly quiet around that except for the Peyton Todd talk.
Yeah, a bit of that is Damian Ramos is just quiet and consistent. You know, not really anything special with his leg strength or anything, but you know, he's going to be your 75, 80% kicker, and he's going to make the kicks you need, and that's kind of a good thing. You know, they're set at long snapper with Slade Roy there, and you know, it's one of those things. A lot of these problems on special teams, if you're not talking about them, because you're in a good spot. But then you're talking about your real issues in special teams have been, you know, blocking, because, you know, you had kicks blocked. You lost your very first game under Brian Kelly against Florida State because of that. Well, your offensive line is now considered one of the best in the country, and that should be ironed out pretty quickly. That's an easy thing to iron out. So I don't think we'll be seeing anymore, but it's really been returner, because it's either been bad or nothing special for LSU in the return game. Well, you bring in Xavion Thomas. You thought you had your issue addressed with Aaron Anderson. Lo and behold, the very first game against Florida State, he muffs the ball, and they yanked him. They said, we're not doing this again. We're not losing football games because we're muffing punts. We're going to send Greg Clayton back there and give us a fair catch. Well, Greg Clayton's gone, so you're going to have to find a new person to go do that. And I think Xavion Thomas should be a pretty good answer, because unlike Aaron Anderson, he's actually done this at the collegiate level and been a good returner. So the hope is at that spot you're going to go from it being a liability to it being a strength of your team.
Preston, I'm curious on something else too, because when we were just kind of talking about numbers there and where else they might look in the portal, you said they have 3 spots left and best available. Do you look at this LSU team now after they've added JVR Suggs and the numbers are good along the defensive line and defensive tackle spot? Do you look at this LSU team kind of without now a big glaring remaining hole, or is there one that you see as their biggest remaining hole?
Matt, the fact of the matter is that for this defense to be a unit that allows them to make the college football playoff, players who weren't playing well last year are going to have to play well. There's no other way to slice it or dice it, because you look at these, your defensive tackle depth, and you have enough bodies there. You bringing in a 5-star defensive tackle freshman. You have Jacobian Guillory. At defensive end, you have a lot of returning guys, but none of those guys played good football last year. You're going to be looking for a guy like Womack to step up. You're going to be looking for Savion Jones to play with much more exterior discipline. And that's why you revamped your coaching staff. So for this defense to be anywhere near good enough what it needs to be, yeah, you're going to have to get something more out of these guys you weren't getting, because the transfer portal did not come through and rescue your defense. You added some nice pieces. You added Jordan Gilbert. You added J.R. Brown. It's not a completely new defense we're talking about personnel-wise. So guys going to have to start playing better, and I still have concerns about that defensive line as a unit. I'm still pretty worried about it because, it's kind of like your offensive line on offense. It's kind of the foundation of your defense. That's your first point of attack. If they're getting pressure, it helps everybody. If they're not getting pressure, if they're eating up blocks in the run game, that frees up your linebackers. So I have my concerns with it. That being said, I do expect the offense is going to be pretty darn good. There's a lot of room in between pretty darn good and where they were a year ago. That's still good enough to get you in the playoff. The problem is that defense, you got to improve from the hundreds to the 60s to get there. You got to be at least an adequate defense. You know what I mean?
For sure, 100%. I think you could argue in Brian Kelly's first year they were an adequate defense. I don't think if you go back and look at ranks and everything like that, they weren't world beaters, but they were adequate and it got them to the SEC championship. If you're that this year, well, maybe you can, run 10-2 and get to the college football playoff. You just can't be what you were last year. We're talking with Preston Guy here, covers LSU football and recruiting for TigerBait.com. You follow him on Twitter at PGuy77. Preston, I did want to get a thought on the potential for a change to the recruiting calendar that could be pretty big. So Football Scoop earlier this week had a report, and it's not something that's new, but it's moving signing days around, moving the December signing period up to the first week of December to kind of get it out of the way of the college football playoff and things of that nature. And I think that makes a little bit of sense. The thing that is kind of catching people off guard is the potential for a June signing period. It would potentially go into effect first for the class of 2026, which would be June 2025. Why are they pushing for a June signing period over the traditional February?
Well, because first off, Musso, let me just say the signing period situation. I was one of the early adopters saying, hey, give me an early signing period, because we saw problems with the February one in that early enrollees weren't locked in. So guys could just, leave you at the altar and enroll somewhere else like Gunnar Kiel did to LSU. Mm-hmm. That was a problem. So I was like, oh, yeah, just give an early signing day. The problem that they've created with this December signing day is 10 times as bad as that problem, because now instead of having a recruit bail on their school they're committed to, you're having teams, rosters, coaches, like not a player, basically an entire team bail on their school in the middle of a season. Bowl season has been just eviscerated. And that was probably something that was coming on anyways, because we've seen players taking meaningless exhibition games less seriously over the last 10 years. Look at the NBA All-Star Game. Look at the Pro Bowl. That's a bit of a cultural shift, but now everybody's watching out for themselves, and coaches need to get in their job in November, not December anymore, November, to get a roster built. Well, all of a sudden, if you backed it up to December 1st, you're gonna have to hire coaches even earlier. So I guess to get that signing place in order, they're gonna have to abandon their regular season as well. So I'm not nuts about this, but let me tell you about the June signing day. It would at least have a core nucleus of your recruiting class locked in before the season starts, before you fired and hired coaches. And I do think that would relieve some of the pressure of getting a coach in place if you have 12 kids committed instead of 0, because 0 were locked in, I guess in theory could help that. The thing that just scares me, Musso, with all this is all the changes we've seen with college football where on paper it sounds good for the kids and good for them. It's the unintended consequences of all these things that are changing, and I just this is coinciding with a lot of other changes, like revenue sharing is now going to be a thing. The portal still hasn't been figured out. It's a mess, but I'll tell you what, it's about as bad as it could be right now, and it's bad for the sport. It's unsustainable long-term for the sport. So to change it in any way, my gut tells me it can't be worse.
It looks like it's coming down the pike pretty fast. I mean, and coaches and media and everyone alike is kind of looking at it like, ugh, all right, well, we'll see how it goes. But you're right. I mean, it's just the next step probably in the what's the buzzword? The ever-changing landscape of college football and college athletics. So we will see. But I did want to get thoughts on it because it's a pretty interesting topic. I find that just the next thing to change is recruiting, right? But Preston Guy covers LSU football for Tiger Bait and recruiting as well. You can follow him on Twitter at PGuy77. He's here with Hunt every Friday. Preston, we appreciate the time as always. Thank you.
All right, Matt. See you soon.
Absolutely. We will grab a break, come back on the other side, switch back to LSU baseball. Chris DeMui joins us next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit us at LeBerge Baton Rouge Casino this spring for all the hoops and hockey playoff action. There is no better place to be than the sportsbook over at LeBerge. They've got the biggest screens. That's one really good thing. They got the best food and drink. That's another really, really good thing. And what can be better than that? They're giving away Pin Cash bonuses and prizes to Pin Play Rewards members. You might say, I'm not a Pin Play member. Well, that's all right. Just join today by downloading and registering for the Pin Play app from the App Store. You can unlock all the fun, including a chance to win up to $2,000 in Pin Cash. What's better than that? You hang out, you watch some sports, you eat some great food, have some great drinks, do a little wagering, you can win some Pin Cash. All this and more. Make LeBerge Baton Rouge Casino your spring sports viewing headquarters. You must be 21 or older. Got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $11,000 off the new 23 Dodge Charger. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $11,000 off the powerful new Charger. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. The Riot Radio Hours return. We're recapping LSU South Carolina, getting you ready for a weekend in Hoover. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Back here on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, Musso filling in for Hunt. Let's keep the LSU baseball conversation going, shall we? Tigers defeat South Carolina 11-10 last night in Hoover. They advance to the semifinals in the SEC tournament, where they will face the winner of Kentucky and South Carolina, a game to be played in about an hour and a half, or get underway, I should say, in about an hour and a half. Former two-time Tiger National Champion pitcher Chris DeMui joins the show now. DeMui, great to chat. How are you?
Doing good, Moose. It's been a while, so good to talk to you, man.
Absolutely. Look, I kind of want to go through the SEC tournament run as a whole here with you, and then some bigger picture things as they move on as well, because the one thing that they've certainly secured is more baseball, which is great for everybody involved.
Right.
Let's start, though, with Tuesday and Wednesday and Luke Holman engaged Jump, both going out there on short rest, 4 days, both dealing. I mean, you have Jump giving you 7 and then 6 no-hit innings from Holman. How difficult is that to do on 4 days rest?
Well, I think in college, I think it's difficult in a sense because they're just not used to it. But I will say this, and I don't know Yeski's program, but that is probably, in all likelihood, their normal bullpen day. So for those out there that don't know, you usually throw a bullpen, and it's late in the season, but they're still throwing probably 40 to 50 pitches before it's all said and done in their bullpen. Then they get a couple days off, then they have their usual SEC start. So it's not like they're not throwing at all in between starts. So, but for Jump to turn, both those guys to turn around and throw 100 in that heat, and luckily they played at 9:30, which helped them out. But I mean, it's tough when you're not necessarily used to it, right? And you even saw Scheme take him a while last year in pro ball to get used to that rest. Truly impressive. I mean, to get up, 5:30 wake-up call, I think they said, and to be ready to play. And really, they had to have that win against Georgia, in my opinion, to fight for their regional lives. And one of the best hitting teams in the country. And those back-to-back performances were they're outstanding, really, exactly what they needed.
And you move forward a little bit to last night, and I think what you saw last night obviously was the offense kind of win you the baseball game. But going back to that Ole Miss, the final game of the Ole Miss series, you've now seen LSU put up 9, 9, 11, and 11. It looks like the offense is finally starting to find some consistency here late in the season. What do you attribute that to most?
Yeah, I think from what I can tell, because obviously it's you're never going to click on all cylinders. And if this team ever does, like you got all 9 guys hitting, it's going to be trouble. Shades of last year, right? But you still have guys that aren't really hitting in the tournament. They've had some big swings, but Jones is punching out a ton. Travinsky, White had an off day yesterday. But you've seen like the freshmen really step up, right? Milam and Larson, even though Larson's been scuffling a little bit. Brown, I think he needs to stay in the lineup. You know, he's looked great so far. So to me, they've done a better job of getting – they still leave some runners on base, and every team's going to do that. But it feels like they're getting bigger hits in the bigger moments when it's needed than they were earlier in the season, right? It felt like they were just averaging 4 to 5 runs in SEC games for the longest time, and now maybe it's just it's a solidified lineup. Guys know where they're going to be, except for maybe 1 or 2 guys when they come to the ballpark. They know where they're going to be in the lineup, and I think it's probably just giving these guys some confidence and the ability to relax. And it's maybe not trying to do too much, maybe not pressing, realizing that other guys on the team can pick them up. And to me, it's just big hits in big situations. And last night's game was, if you're a Tiger fan, to come back after those massive gut punches was just great to see, and just a fantastic ball game for those guys.
It feels like a game that they don't win a month ago, like in the simplest.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. I think I had PTSD. I was at a family function, but I was kind of going to the bar or the restroom, catching it on the TV, and my son was kind of watching on his phone. But when they got down, when Nate came in, and I didn't see it, but I heard about it, right? Nate gave up that grand slam. I was like, I was like, I just don't know if they're going to be able to come back, right? Not because they couldn't, but you just hadn't really seen it. And then they come back, right away, which was massive. Then they get down again and come back again. And it's just, look, I think regardless if they win that game in the ninth, to me, that showed just a ton of moxie or whatever you want to say, a maturing process. But, and to have the freshmen, right? You had the freshmen do it in the ninth. I mean, I don't know if you can really call those guys freshmen anymore, but that was a big stage, right? And it just should give them a ton of confidence moving forward. Whatever happens the rest of this weekend is just all, icing on the cake, really.
You mentioned Jake Brown earlier in a previous answer, and look, I mean, he was awesome, and we'd all heard so much about him, obviously at the plate, but even on the mound. We just haven't got to see that yet this year, but I'm sure that's coming at some point. Huge night for him, the 2-run homer, 3 hits. Has LSU found their center fielder going forward?
I think so. That's kind of been a weird spot. Obviously, I don't have to tell you that, right? You've flip-flopped between him and Kling and Bingham, and it's just Bingham was, Kling got the shot for most of the year, then Bingham obviously the last month, and it just hadn't worked out for Mac, which is weird because he's a senior guy. He played at a big-time program in Arizona, and you felt like they needed somebody else in that lineup. You can't really have 3 or 4 guys that are struggling every weekend, right? And the other two just didn't really offer you much besides defensively, right? And I think Brown can play defensively out there just as well as anybody. And you just seen a really good approach from him at the plate. And I guess, some guys just like Travinsky last year, right? It was his time this year, last year, this time Travinsky went nuts, right? And he just kind of asserted himself. And so maybe you're seeing that with Brown, right? Where he's just kind of turning on at the right time.
Couple on the mound for you, DeMui, and then we can. I want a thought on a big picture as they head towards the NCAA tournament. Thatcher Hurd got the start yesterday, and it was intriguing to see because he had pitched really well in his outing against Ole Miss. He had success against a very similar South Carolina lineup last year in the SEC tournament, and this was kind of the time last year where Hurd was really starting to round into form. It just hasn't been there for him this year. Is there anything that you can pinpoint as to why the wheels kind of look to just fall off for him mid-outing?
I feel terrible for him, yeah, and it's just I'm sure he's probably wondering the same thing because I was listening and I caught a little bit of it, but he was dealing, right? He looked great. His fastball velo looked like it was up to where me and you saw it in the fall, really, and I was pumped for him the first 2 innings, and then you could see, look, it was hot out there. I saw him in his warm-up pitches, and his jersey was already dripped through. And I think Frankie has said he hadn't thrown more than 40 or 45 pitches in 2 months, right, since Florida. I think Bill said that in the broadcast. So it's kind of like he's his own worst enemy at times because I think he goes walk, then he hits a guy, and then I heard he airmailed Milazzo, and then it's bad luck that they get the blooper, but he kind of created his own bad luck, right? So it's I don't know why. Maybe he was exhausted at that point, and because he hadn't thrown so much and it was hot. But it just seems like this year it's just been one thing or the other, right? He hadn't been able to locate, or he loses it for 2 or 3 batters, and then it just kind of spirals on him. I really don't know what to say. I can't really pinpoint it. I think if he can get you 6 outs moving forward, that may be all you need from him, depending on the situation. I think asking for anything more than that right now just may be a little bit too much, and not to say that he can't do it, but I think for everybody to expect him to do it, I don't know if that's necessarily fair.
And just an overall thought on the pitching staff. They had been riding a heater. We mentioned what they did to Georgia, a top lineup, Kentucky, who's also a top 5 offense in the conference, and even Ole Miss, Texas A&M, down the stretch, they've been really, really good on the mound. Any concern over last night at all?
Yeah, I definitely think there's concern. I think Jump and Holman, in my opinion, are pitching. They're just as good of a 1-2 punch as anybody else you can put up there in country. Hagen Smith and whoever, Chase Burns and whoever. Jump and Holman, I have full confidence in them, the ability to beat anybody in the country in a regional for Game 1 or Game 2. Then the problem is, what happens in Game 3, and we saw a little bit of that, and he's done different things. I don't like Dutton as an opener at all. I think he's better in relief. Ack has struggled a little bit. I feel comfortable with him starting because you saw what he did last year in the College World Series. You can't put Herring out there per se because he's your best bullpen arm. So, yes, there's definitely a concern because trying to piece it together in a regional is not ideal, but maybe it's something to where you just go to each guy and say, look, Musso, I need you to give me 6 outs. That's it. That's all I care about. You go to the next guy. I need you to give me 6. And then the next guy. And then you try to – it's not ideal, but, I definitely have concerns. If looking at a Game 3 scenario, no matter the situation in a regional, whether you're 1-1 or you're 2-0, it's not ideal because I just don't know if you can roll the ball out there and feel confident in somebody giving you 4 or 5 really good innings right now.
Hey man, if they're asking me for 6 outs, they're going to be hurt. They're going to be hurting, DeMui. I promise you on that.
I couldn't give them 6 outs either. So
yeah, I mean, you have a better chance than me. I promise you that. All right, one more for you, and you kind of maybe answered it a little bit already, but looking forward now into the NCAA tournament, is this current run that they're on sustainable, or is it just a nice, fun week in Hoover?
Oh man, that's a great question. It's I think it's sustainable. I really do, because of Jump and Holman. I think that's why it's sustainable. Look, if you were to say LSU is going to give you 4 or 5 runs in the regional in the first 2 games, I feel okay with that. That's a lot of pressure to put on Jump and Holman to continue to perform. But then you're looking at bringing in, Herring and Guidry or some combination, and you get the good Christian Little and the better Nate Ackenhausen. So I do think it's sustainable, even if the offense dials it back. And I think, look, when you go to a regional, it works both ways, right? I've been thinking about this. None of these teams have seen LSU's pitchers and vice versa, right? So they may not know how to throw Tommy White. And then Tommy White obviously haven't seen their pitchers, but they don't have a book, right? They don't have 3 years on or 2 years on Gavin Guidry or Herring. They haven't seen these guys multiple times. So I think it works in our favor. But I do think it's sustainable. I think it's a little tough to ask the offense just to continue to pile on runs because, regional's a different animal. But I think you have guys that can lead this team because they went there last year and now they have confidence. And I think that can carry you through 3 games and then you get a break and who knows what happens after that. So to a certain extent, I definitely think you can carry this over.
It's going to be a fun ride to watch one way or another, especially considering, 2-3 weeks ago, it was far, far from a certainty, and they've played some really good baseball to make it a certainty. Chris DeMui, former 2-time national champion at LSU, pitcher. We appreciate the time as always. It's great to chat, man.
Same here, brother. Good to talk to you, Moose.
Absolutely. All right, that is Chris DeMui. We'll have a little bit more LSU baseball sprinkled in because I do want to get a little bit of a thought on what you want to see from them when they do take back to the field on Saturday. Until then, they'll enjoy a nice steak at Fleming's, according to Jay Johnson last night. Their second trip to Fleming's this week. It's. I see you nodding over there, Beck. Hey, man, look.
That sounds nice.
It's good to be on the LSU baseball team.
No kidding.
Yeah. Not 1, but 2 trips to Fleming's. So that's what they're doing now, and they'll have a practice, and they'll be back out there against the winner of Kentucky and South Carolina. We're going to grab a break. We're going to come back on the other side. Hour 1 almost in the books here. It's a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Musso in for Hunt. We'll be back with more next.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electric. Certified Generac generator dealer. Premier Generac generator dealer. I can promise you this when you contact the folks at Boudreaux's. It's going to be an incredibly efficient process. They're going to send out an employee. They're going to survey your home, figure out what you need, and they're going to get you into the right generator because not all generators are created exactly equally. Depends on your square footage, what you want powered if the power fails. Some folks want the whole house roaring. You can get that done. Some folks, just keep it cool, make sure the AC is running. I might like a TV too. That's fine too. They can do it for you. But you got to know what you want, and then they'll have a full-time Boudreaux's Electric employee come out to install the generator using the highest quality in piping and wiring, and they're going to do most of that installation underground so that it's aesthetically pleasing and functional when the power goes out down here in South Louisiana. Give them a call at 985-397-1562, 985-397-1562. That's my friends at Boudreaux's Electric.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play. with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Charles Hannegriff, join us for the Tuesday edition of Live at Lunch from Mike Anderson Seafood, Wesley at Nicholson. We are taking the Memorial Day holiday. We'll be back on Tuesday getting you ready for the NCAA tournament. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Tuesday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live After 5 has its finale tonight, Friday, May 24th. Clock out and rock out with us this tonight at 5 p.m. going through 8 p.m. Michael Foster Project will be there. This season was filled with incredible music, delicious food, talented artists, and a lively second line parade. Again, for the finale for Live After 5 tonight at 5, the Michael Foster Project.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Wrapping up hour number 1 of the Hunt Palmer Show. Musso in for Hunt. Talk about potential breakout on the offensive side of the ball for the New Orleans Saints to start the next hour. Ross Jackson, Locked on Saints, also will join the show as well. And we'll touch one more time, get you a preview on LSU baseball as they get set to face either Kentucky or South Carolina on Saturday in the SEC tournament. Wanted to wrap up hour number 1 here, though, with a quick little thought on the Pelicans. You might have seen now Trajan Langdon set to be hired by the Detroit Pistons as their president of basketball operations. Woj, of course, dropping the bomb yesterday with that one, reporting that first. It's interesting for a couple of reasons. I mean, number one, it's a great opportunity for Trajan Langdon, and you wish him the best. He's been with New Orleans the last 5 years. It's his second stint working under David Griffin, but it comes at an interesting time for the Pelicans because of the role that Trajan Langdon played in the organization. I mean, that is David Griffin's right hand. Like, he's second in command in all of the front office. He was widely regarded for his player evaluation, scouting. He was heavily involved in the drafting of Zion Williamson. Although, I get it, yes, that was a no-brainer. Like, you won the draft lottery. He's a generational talent. That not much went into that. You were taking Zion. but into the evaluation and drafting of Trey Murphy, of Herb Jones, of those types of talent. And when you look at the things that are on the plate for New Orleans this offseason, whether it's extending Trey Murphy or what do you do with Brandon Ingram, you obviously have to address your center position. There's a lot going on there in this offseason. It's going to be a very pivotal offseason coming off the second playoff trip in 2 seasons where now you really want to extend that forward and take the next step. You now have to replace your general manager. So that's where I see this and I go, okay, that is obviously interesting and it's something worth following, because while the Pelicans ended up in the play-in this year was disappointing, there was also a lot of positives that came out. You got a full season out of Zion. You won 49 games. You ended up making the playoffs. It didn't go great when you were in there, but you ended up, making it there for the second time in 3 years. Now you're really in a position to take the next step, but you gotta, with everything you have to address on the court, now you have to address a pretty big position off the court as general manager Trajan Langdon is heading up to Detroit. All right, that's going to put a button here on hour number 1 of the Hunt Palmer Show. We will grab a break, come back on the other side, get you caught up in the national headlines with SportsCenter, and then we will dive into some New Orleans Saints talk. Is this player set to break out in Kubiak's offense?
Elevate brand visibility, ignite customer engagement with the power of radio and digital advertising combined. Guarantee Digital Media brings the two together as a trusted media partner in Louisiana for nearly a century. Claim your free digital audit at guaranteemedia.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
He's here. Anyone want a Coors Light?
Oh shoot, I forgot to play the song. I got a guy who can fix this.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Brack, your #1 park system in the nation.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $11,000 off the new 23 Dodge Charger. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $11,000 off the powerful new Charger. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
This is SportsCenter.
Ahead of Game 2 of the NBA's Western Conference Finals versus the Mavericks tonight, the Timberwolves received a strong message from their coach Chris Finch. In what he called a rough film session, he told them of his disappointment in their performance, attitude, and attention to detail in the Game 1 loss. Finch, though, did express confidence his team will be better. Anthony Edwards certainly needs to be, points out ESPN NBA insider Brian Windhorst.
Dallas has totally showed what their hand is going to be defensively. They packed the paint, basically were playing a tight zone, and they were keeping 3 and 4 guys ahead of Ant at all times. They've got to alter their strategy, and I think go a little faster. Don't let Dallas set up, increase the pace, and Ant has got to challenge that. If there's 2 guys in front of them, challenge them, get to the foul line, put the officials under some pressure on the road.
Game 2, 8 Eastern, ESPN Radio. In explaining the reasoning for firing coach J.B. Bickerstaff, Cavaliers president of basketball ops Kobe Altman said today he felt the team needed a new voice and a new approach. Rangers host the Panthers Game 2 NHL East Final tonight, 8 Eastern, ESPN. New York's down 1-0.
Feeling great starts with a great shave, and great shaves start with Barbasol Shaving Cream. That's Barbasol Shaving Cream, an American classic for over 100 years. Close Shave America, Close Shave Barbasol.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome back in. Hour number 2 of the Hunt Palmer Show here on a Friday. Musso filling in for Hunt. Jacob Beck, Cassie Spazzali along for the ride as well. And glad to have you here for one more hour before we send you into AFR. And then Matt will send you into your holiday weekend. But glad to have you here with us. 1 hour in the books and plenty more to go. I'm going to switch the conversation here to the New Orleans Saints. Momentarily, we will get you a brief thumbnail on something to expect from LSU baseball as they get set for Saturday in the SEC tournament. And then Ross Jackson will join us as well before we get out of here today. So, in looking at the New Orleans Saints, they're on the field for OTAs, just completed the first phase of that this week. And of the many storylines, whether it's the offensive line or whatnot, Clint Kubiak and his offensive system is squarely in the middle. Right in the middle of all the talk. And whether it's install, how Derek Carr's going to adapt to it, how everyone's going to adapt to it, who might be featured most prominently in it, who fits in it, all the questions that you've all heard bandied about got me thinking. One guy that really could be maximized in Clint Kubiak's system. And that's Rashid Shaheed. It's that time of the offseason where publications all around are giving you their breakout player for each team. And when you look at that for the Saints, it is overwhelmingly listed as Rashid Shaheed. And that's ultimately what got me thinking, man, do the Saints have a hidden gem there? Do you remember Rashid Shaheed's debut? Do you remember how that happened? In his first year, he played 12 games, but he didn't see the field until October of 2022. The very first time he touched the football, it was on a handoff, and he went 44 yards for a touchdown. His first NFL touch ever. Then he didn't touch the ball the rest of the game. And then the very next week, the Saints are playing the Cardinals. They put him back out on the field, throwing him a deep ball, and in his second ever NFL game, on his second ever NFL touch, he scored a 53-yard receiving touchdown, and everybody's like, who the hell is 89? Oh, yeah, it's the undrafted receiver out of Weber State. Where's this guy been all year when the Saints offense has just been, trudging through mud and muck? And slowly but surely they started to, incorporate him more. But right there in those first two plays in his NFL career, you saw the versatility. Last year, he looks like he could be your number 3 guy. What happens with Michael Thomas happens. He gets hurt. And Shaheed steps up and ultimately becomes your number 2. You look up at the end of the year, he's got 75 targets, 700 yards plus on just 46 receptions and 5 touchdowns. And he has well established himself as a deep threat in this league. When I said Rashid Shaheed, the first thing you probably thought of is, stretch the field. The guy's a hell of a deep threat. He's your weapon downfield. And that's 100% bears itself out in the numbers. You realize his 5 touchdowns on deep targets last year, so all 5 of them were 3rd in the NFL behind Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans. That's pretty good company. But what I really want to see, because we know he can do that, and you saw him really emerge in the post route last year for the New Orleans Saints. But what I really want to see is how Clint Kubiak can expand Rashid Shaheed's role in the Saints offense. Because before everyone was talking about offensive line and what a hole that was for the New Orleans Saints, and it is, and you should be talking about that. That should be at the top of the list. But before, everyone was looking at wide receiver because you had 3. You had 3 of them on the roster. That was it. And then they added some veterans, Cedric Wilson, Equanimeous St. Brown, guys like that. But that was what you were looking at. Who's stepping up behind Chris Olave? And the answer was always Rashid Shaheed. But for him to really become the number 2, the true number 2, you have to expand the role a little bit. Clint Kubiak could absolutely be the guy to do that. You want more creativity, and that's ultimately what you're looking for him to bring to this offense is more creativity. Not just, hey, Sheed, go run a post route. Go run past everybody. You can run 20 miles an hour. Go run past the safety and catch the ball, score touchdown. So what might an expanded role for Rashid Shaheed look like? Well, I'd go back to the examples we used right off the top when we talked about his debut. That's a guy that you just need to get the ball to in space. You can line him up in different spots on the field, obviously. But if you just can get the ball in his hands, whether that's in a screen pass, whether that's jet sweep, whether it's putting him in motion and matching him up, finding a favorable matchup with him in the defense, he's a guy that in his 2 years so far in the league has been obviously really difficult to deal with in man coverage, winning some 40% of the time in man coverage, but in zone, he's winning 58.5% of the time. He understands how to utilize space on the football field, get him the ball, and let him do that. Again, screens, jet sweeps, moving him around in motion, finding the best option against the zone, against a man-to-man matchup, however you can, using him more over the middle of the field. The hands for Rashid Shaheed are very good too. He's caught 68% of his targets over 2 years to date. You do that, you have yourself a bona fide number 2 behind Chris Olave. Can the role be similar to how the 49ers used Deebo Samuel? Maybe the touches there aren't as frequent because when you look at them, size comparison-wise, Shaheed and Samuel, they're both 6 feet tall, but Samuel's 215 pounds. Shaheed's at 180. So maybe you do worry about durability if you go, full-on Deebo Samuel role there for him, but a guy with as much versatility as he has And to be such a prime candidate to be your number 2, you can't just leave him, okay, go run down the field and catch the ball. He can't just be your deep threat. You have to maximize his ability because he's also a great return guy. He was first-team All-Pro returner in 2023. The return touchdown he had against the Packers was huge in that game until the Saints blew a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter. Versatility, I want to see it maximized. I think Clint Kubiak is 100% a guy who could do that. So, yeah, when everyone's listing Rashid Shaheed as the breakout, makes a lot of sense. But I have a problem with the term breakout because I look at last year with him and breakout kind of already happened. It was forced to because of the injury to Michael Thomas. Again, he came in as your number 3. He was forced into that role, and he ended up with 700 yards, 5 touchdowns, being mentioned in the same breath as Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans in certain categories. That's breakout. So now how can you maximize that breakout? That's what I'm looking for. And the one area, I've talked about getting them the ball in space, the one area I really want to see more from him in is running the football. The Saints struggled running the football last year, whether it was Alvin Kamara, whether it was Josh Williams, and then, of course, Jamal Williams. And then, of course, you had the injury to Kendre Miller. The Saints were like 23rd or 24th in the NFL in rush offense. It's a small sample size, but I look at Rashid Shaheed, and I see in 2 years, 11 attempts for 94 yards and a touchdown, an average of 8.5 yards per carry. That 44-yarders factored into that. 100% understand. That's what I said. It's a small sample, but I'm still looking at a guy averaging 8.5 yards a carry. Give him a few more. See if there's actually not something to build off of there in the run game with him, especially when you have 2 running backs in Williams and Kamara pushing 30 years old, and the one behind them is Kendre Miller, who you rarely saw on the field as a rookie because he was hurt. Any way you can get the ball to Rashid Shaheed more, I'm for. And I'm fired up, actually, to see how he fits into Clint Kubiak's offense and how creative they can get with him, because he might just be a secret hidden gem for the New Orleans Saints that's only slightly been uncovered. You're like at the tip of the iceberg, potentially, with Rashid Shaheed. It'll be interesting to see, and I'm fired up to watch it. Saints are back on the field again next week for the second phase of OTAs. We'll ask that question to Ross Jackson when he's here at the bottom of this hour, how he thinks Shaheed fits into Clint Kubiak's offense, and also, the obligatory offensive line stuff and all of that, and, kind of just overall takeaways from the first 3 practices of OTAs here this week. That's still to come here on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We are presented by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp here on Fridays. Every Friday, they're your daily sponsor here on Hunt Show. Musso filling in today. Hunt will be back with you on Tuesday, just kind of, taking the long weekend with the family. Well-deserved, obviously, and we'll all be off on Memorial Day on Monday, and then we'll be back, obviously, on Tuesday. All right, we're going to grab a break, come back on the other side with more. Everyone's kind of been asking, LSU, they're on this run in Hoover. What does that mean? How high can they climb in the NCAA tournament? Well, we have an answer. 2 new projected fields of 64 are out. We'll run through those and give you some thoughts on Saturday as well, what to expect from LSU as they try to punch their ticket to the SEC Tournament Championship game. That's next here on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. The Riot Radio Hours return. We're recapping LSU South Carolina, getting you ready for a weekend in Hoover. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Back here on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. So everyone wanted to ask, with LSU on this current run in Hoover, what does it do for their NCAA tournament chances? A lot of people have asked if they could sneak into the host race, and the answer there is just flatly no. LSU right now, as it stands, is at 16 wins against SEC opponents. Even if you win the SEC tournament, that would put you at 1 game above 500 in SEC play in the eyes of the committee all year. And it's not going to be enough to knock, a team like Georgia, who's obviously ahead of you there. Mississippi State even is ahead of you in a hosting race. So no, that not going to happen. The only way another game is played at the box this year is if LSU goes on the road, wins a regional, and there's an upset in the corresponding regional with a 3 seed or lower. and then you could get a game back at the box.
Well, they're also, if LSU does manage to get a 2 seed, if their opposing bracket is also a 2 seed, then there will be a bidding.
There'd be a bid,
and then
correct.
LSU obviously is going to win that. I would assume they're probably going to win the bidding war there.
You would assume, however, I will point you to last year when Tennessee lost a bid to Southern Miss.
That's true.
So you would assume that. And I would too. But that's your path to that. So put it in a box, wrap it up, put a bow on it, put it in the corner, kind of forget about it. Right? The thing that LSU absolutely could do is find their way up to a 2 seed. And I think that's what everybody really had your eyes on. Now, does that really matter? I don't know. You're still in a 2-3 matchup. You'd get to be the home team, but my counter argument to that would be LSU has been the visiting team all 3 games at Hoover. They've won all of them. Sometimes the last at bat is really important. Other times it's not. The interesting part about that is, what would it take for LSU to get to the 2 seed? And if you look at the most recent projections of the field of 64 from Baseball America and from D1 Baseball, they will tell you that LSU is already there. In both projections, LSU has moved off of the 3 line and on to the 2 line. That's more of what I'm concerned about. We can look at where they're projected, but none of that actually really matters. It's all hypothetical. Seeding, I think they obviously have a much better grasp on, so I always lean towards that. Your actual draw, the one that matters, comes out on Monday. But for the sake of conversation, Baseball America has LSU as the 2 seed in Norman, Oklahoma, hosted by the Sooners, and they have Oklahoma as a top 8 national seed. So that's a tough draw. Like, I think many of us would be hoping that LSU would end up in one of those regionals 9 through 16. Baseball America has you there at the 7 seed Oklahoma as the 2 seed, along with Georgia Tech and Abilene Christian. Georgia Tech's interesting too, because they've been on the bubble and they didn't get to that 16 win mark in ACC play, which is kind of one of their big benchmarks. They play an extra week more of conference play than the SEC does, but they didn't get there. But they're having a nice run in the ACC tournament. So maybe they're off the bubble and in. That would be interesting to see. For what it's worth, that'd be paired with the Charlottesville regional hosted by Virginia. Texas St. John's Army is in there. But again, that's all pure speculation. I focus more on the seeding. LSU, per D1 Baseball, as well, on the 2 line in Stillwater, Oklahoma. You've seen LSU projected to Stillwater a couple different times here. The interesting thing there, Oklahoma State would be the 13 seed, I think more in line with where many of us are expecting LSU to fall, kind of in that range. The problem with the draw there is you'd be paired with College Station, Texas in this projection. And I know LSU beat A&M 2 out of 3 and looked really good doing it. Texas A&M has lost 3 games all year at home. It would be a much different battle, a much different test for you to go into Bluebell Park in this projection to do something like that. But the important thing is LSU here looks like they are now on the 2 line. Again, how much does that matter? I don't really know. You get to hit last in that scenario. But it goes to show that you have played at least ahead of something. Like you've improved something there in terms of your lot in the NCAA tournament. And then just as a random aside, I actually would love to see LSU go to Stillwater. And I've largely been under the impression that LSU is going to be sent to the ACC this year because they'll have plenty of hosts, and the SEC teams regionally that normally would be sent there are hosting, like Tennessee, like Georgia, like Kentucky. So I was like, that'd kind of be nice. Please just don't send them out to Santa Barbara or Corvallis. Stillwater would be interesting, though, because that place is a freaking launching pad. Like, I don't know if you've noticed the past few regionals in Stillwater, but they've all been beer league softball scores. Like 15-13. It's been absurd. Don't really know why the ball flies there, because like the dimensions are very akin to TD or Charles Schwab or whatever it is, the park in Omaha, but it just flies out of there. Very hitter friendly. So that in of itself, if nothing else, it'd be entertaining for that reason, because I mean LSU's got a very powerful team. The Tigers are, let's see, they're at 100 homers. Jake Brown hit home run number 100 for LSU last night. So that would just be interesting as an aside. So there you go. LSU on the 2 line here heading into Saturday. So what do you expect to see from LSU Saturday? They'll play Kentucky or South Carolina. That game comes up in about 30 minutes. I want to see a bounce-back effort on the mound, obviously. And we kind of had that conversation with Chris DeMui earlier in the show of if there's concern. Even LSU's pitched very well down the stretch, but even with that, is there concern after what happened last night? He said yes. Feel like I'm a little bit more confident in LSU staff maybe than DeMui was. I think they're going to bounce back, and that's one of the chief things that I want to see from them, especially because you will see guys that you haven't seen in a while. Like, you have the day off, which helps guys who pitched last night recover. But, I mean, I look at Nate Ackenhausen. He threw 35 pitches. With a day off in between, could he give you an inning on Saturday? Probably. Christian Little threw 51. You're probably not going to see Christian Little again unless you make it to Sunday, in which case, that'd be great. I actually want to see him get back on the mound because he did struggle last night, 4 earned in an inning and 2/3. I want to see him kind of right that wrong. Think about the Alabama series. He struggled in game 1, was able to come back in game 3 and have a really solid performance. I'd like to be able to see him do that again, but I don't think that's in the cards. I don't think that's in the cards for Saturday. Justin Lohr, 100% available. Fidel Ulloa, kind of in that same boat as Ackenhausen. Day off, sure, but he threw over 30 pitches. Maybe he could give you an inning if need be. The good news is you have Griffin Herring, you have Gavin Guidry, who both haven't thrown. Herring since Tuesday, Guidry since Wednesday. So they will have had 2 days off, and they're plenty good enough to go. Who starts the game? I think you have 3 options. Top of that list is Sam Dutton. Now, if you do that, it's going to be in an opener role. Like 1, maybe 2 innings. Maybe a trip through the lineup, but probably not. And then you're really going to have to piece it together. LSU, if they really want to try and win this ball game, somebody has to give them length, which is why I'm interested to see if they would start Griffin Herring. And Herring wouldn't give you a lot of length in that ball game because he threw 33 pitches 2 days ago. Well, at that point, it'll be 3 days ago. But he could get you 3-4 innings, maybe. He could definitely get you through the lineup once, and he could get you maybe through it a second time. And if he does that, you're looking at only have to fill the back half of that game. Now, that would burn him, obviously, for the rest of the weekend and until regionals, but you have a little bit of time to play with there. That's something I would just want to see if they would pull the trigger there. I'm not saying that they would. If they don't, and quite honestly, I don't think that they would, you're looking at, like we said, Dutton or Cade Anderson or Javen Coleman. You're getting thin on the mound at this point if you're LSU. They're going to really have to decide how hard they want to go at this thing. Single elimination, but you could be nearing the end of the line. But either way, I want to see the pitching staff bounce back, especially since it's going to be calling on guys who maybe you haven't seen a lot of lately that you could really use something from in the postseason, potentially if you fall into a loser's bracket scenario. Like, this game is the test case for that now. The other thing is the offense. Keep going. Because as thin as you're getting on the mound, whoever you face will be a lot thinner. Kentucky will obviously be in better shape than South Carolina, but both of them will be thin. And you're dodging Mason Moore. He's starting today for Kentucky, so that's huge because that kid's slider's a bowling ball. Although his numbers aren't as good as they were last year, but the stuff still plenty good. And I mean, it would be South Carolina. South Carolina's going to play an extra game now. So you'd all obviously have an advantage there. So I want to see the offense just continue to hum along like it has for the past 4 games for LSU, because I think that is really what is tying this together and making it sustainable for LSU going forward into the NCAA tournament. All right, let's grab a break. Come back on the other side. Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints. He'll be with us. Talk about the first the first phase of OTAs being completed down there on Airline Drive. That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com. Mitchell Fisher and his local team. Fantastic when it comes to your home entertainment system. If you want to have the place this football season to watch the games, whether it's LSU or the Saints, call the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. They can supply you a television, mount it, put all the surround sound capabilities in so you can have a fantastic spot. They can even sync up your speakers so the kitchen and the TV and the outdoor area all synced up at once, so you don't have sound coming from one TV that's echoing to another TV because you're hosting a bunch of people and you got 3 TVs going to watch the game. No, it's all put together and it's all controlled right there at the touch of an app on your phone. Check them out on Instagram. You can see some of the great things they do. It's AVSS_BR. Here's Mitchell Fisher's phone number. He's the owner of the company. You can give him a call and he will be there to service your needs. 225-439-7920. Make your house the place to watch the big game coming up this football season. It's Audio Video Security Solutions at AVSSLA.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today.
Charles Hannegriff, join us for the Tuesday edition of Live at Lunch from Mike Anderson Seafood, Wesley at Nicholson. We are taking the Memorial Day holiday. We'll be back on Tuesday getting you ready for the NCAA tournament. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Tuesday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
All right, week number 1 of OTAs in the books for the New Orleans Saints. Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints, of course on Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola, good enough to join us to give some thoughts. Ross, we appreciate the time as always. How are you?
Hey, buddy, doing great. No sweat, man. Always a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, always enjoy the conversation. Ross, let's start, I guess, where everyone started, and that's the Saints offensive line. I mean, Dennis Allen had some pretty honest, blunt comments about the offensive line earlier this week, saying they feel confident in 2 out of the 5 spots. Where's your confidence currently in the New Orleans Saints offensive line?
Yeah, I think you know who 2 of those 5 spots are. Eric McCoy at center, Cesar Ruiz at right guard. But the fact of the matter is that who fits in wherever else, left tackle, right tackle, and left guard, is still kind of up in the air, and I think that a lot of that has to do with Ryan Ramczyk in terms of what his availability may be, or probably more accurately may not be in 2024. They've been trying Trevor Penning over at right tackle, letting Taliese Fuanga get some run. And at left tackle, they're rotating different guys in terms of first team left guard. There's just nothing solid for those spots yet, and that's fine at this point in the offseason. It's OTAs. It's an opportunity for you to experiment and see where everybody can play. That basically gives you the idea of, hey, how do you get the best 5 players out there? And so I think that's what the Saints are doing right now. They're kind of experimenting, doing a little bit of information gathering to figure out, what it's going to take to get the best 5 starting offensive linemen out there to lead the way for their new scheme, their running backs, and, of course, protecting Derek Carr.
You mentioned Trevor Penning, and that's where I wanted to go next. I think a lot of people expected a position change for him this year, but I think many kind of thought they might kick him inside to guard. They move him over to right tackle. Of course, obviously we know the injury right now with Ryan Ramczyk and his future in doubt. But my question with Penning is, you've seen him over at left tackle struggle. Is there reason to believe that just the move over to the other side of the line can lead to improvement for him?
No, I don't think so. I think you have to see it, right? I think that probably more important than the position change is the new scheme more than anything else. A scheme that's going to allow him to maybe not necessarily have to be the, we call it true pass play or true pass blocking guys in which, there's no play action, no rollout, stuff like that. It's just a drop back situation. There's probably going to be a little bit less of that for the Saints. It'll still be there, but a lot of their offense is now going to include play actions, rollouts, the run game, all these other things where Trevor Penning might, excel a little bit more. I don't know that the move inside to guard was ever going to make sense. I don't know how that would help him at all, especially if footwork was an issue for him, putting him in a smaller area where footwork is kind of pivotal. Didn't feel like moving him inside was going to help that. But let him play a position that's at least familiar with what it is that he knows how to play. It's either left tackle or right tackle, gives him the opportunity to do that. But no, I wouldn't say that the position change alone should give anyone confidence that it's going to work. He's got to be able to prove that, show that, all those other things. But I think what it does is that it provides you an opportunity as a coaching staff to really start from square one with him, to be able to say, okay, you're learning a new scheme, but you're also learning a new position. So take a lot of steps back here and then rebuild the knowledge base and the foundation that will allow him to be able to hopefully take that next step.
So they have a lot of bodies, obviously, that they could fit into those spots on the interior. And they've brought in more, and Dennis Allen admitted as well, some of those guys aren't actually out there yet. But of the group that they've kind of added here, and you have Nick Saldiveri as well, but of the group they've kind of added, whether it's Lucas Patrick or Shane Lemieux or Heron or Oli Udu, any of those guys stand out as somebody that you look at and go, okay, that guy can absolutely help them now?
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, Oli Udo is a big one because he has the ability to be able to kind of be that swing tackle. He can play a lot of different positions, stuff like that. So I think that's a place where, when Taysom's under center, which is not a part of their offense that's going to go away by any means. I think Dennis Allen's pretty clear about that. Then that gives you an opportunity to have that guy out there who can help you out. I think he helps from a depth perspective too, because he can play inside and out as well as on either side. So I think that helps a ton. Shane Lemieux is coming in with veteran experience, just like Lucas Patrick. They can play, guard on either side, and then Patrick can also play at center. The Saints like having somebody that has that sort of backup center opportunity or rather flexibility. You know, they did it with Josh Andrews years ago. They did it with Nick Easton years ago, so on and so forth. So I think that those are spaces where you can, you know, certainly get some benefit when it comes to depth. And then, you know, Nick Saldiveri is a guy that I think could compete to start at left guard right alongside Lucas Patrick as well as Shane Lemieux. So those are the ones that really stand out. And then Justin Herron's another one that I think, along with Landon Young, gives you really good depth, you know, at either tackle spot. So I think that a lot of those guys probably have more impact for, you know, the second and third units and making sure you have good backups, because your entire offensive line is not going to play 17 games in the NFL. It's just not going to happen. So you have to have those guys that are pretty starter quality, or at least one game's worth of starter quality, that can go out there and help you out. And I think there are a couple of those guys that check that box.
Which one of the draft picks stood out most to you so far, whether it be through rookie minicamp or the first week of OTAs?
I'd probably say Bub Means. You know, Christian Boyd kind of gets the short end of the stick on this conversation because it's, you know, there's no contact and things like that. And so it's really hard to judge, you know, offensive line play and defensive line play at this stage. But I'd probably say Bub Means. You know, he's just been a guy that has consistently found himself open, that makes some really nice catches as well, has been a little bit of a terror over the middle of the field for his for the defensive units that he's going up against. I think that's been he's been one of the most fun guys to watch so far, and plays a flashy enough position that it's easy to see when he's excelling. You know, it's fun to watch Taliesin Fuang out there moving around, but again, hard to evaluate offensive line, defensive line play. Spencer Rattler kind of had a little bit of a little bit of a step back when it got to the top of OTAs, but doesn't mean that, you know, the jury's out on him by any means after starting off really strong in rookie minicamp. But I think the guy that carried along the most successful day or pair of days for open the media from rookie minicamp to OTAs would probably be Bub Means.
Ross, we're talking with Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast. Obviously, get subscribed up if y'all have not already. He's on Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola. You should definitely follow him there as well. Ross, you know, it's funny. You mentioned the line and the line play, and it's tough to gauge and all that. And I do actually wanted to ask you about the defensive line and specifically defensive tackle, but not so much the, you know, evaluation part of it, just where you kind of feel they are with their numbers, because I mean, that's a spot. The Saints have struggled stopping the run the last few years, and that's something they never struggled with. Were you surprised maybe at all that they didn't go more aggressively to kind of build up defensive tackle a little bit here this offseason?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that, absolutely. But I do think that the addition of Christian Boyd helps a little bit. I mean, he's a quintessential run stopper. Like that's absolutely his game. So I think maybe he can have a little bit of an impact for you there. Kendall Vickers, who they brought in, is another guy that's a pretty solid run stopper as well. Can play kind of that one-tech spot. So I think they've added a couple of guys, but I was surprised that they didn't, you know, make, I don't want to say bigger moves and things like that, but I think maybe that they're kind of anticipating a big step forward for their interior just by nature of going into a second year within the system. Brian Brzee, Colin Saunders, Nathan Shepard, all three of those guys were brand new to the system last year. And then, you know, they lost Malcolm Roach this offseason, as well as partway through the season last year, who's playing very well against the run. So I think the biggest thing that you're looking for, and clearly the Saints are looking for, is their ability on the interior just to see a step forward in terms of the production there, just based on the fact that those guys are going to be a little bit more familiar with the system and therefore can operate a little bit more freely, add their own little ornamentation to what it is that the Saints scheme itself is asking them to do.
A couple more for you, Ross. We've made it all the way here deep into the interview now, and I haven't even asked you about the new offensive staff, which is, you know, one of the obligatory questions that everybody has to get in these days. But I would love your thoughts on how you've kind of seen them interact with the players, how that relationship is going out there on the field here early on in the offseason.
Yeah, of course, the majority of those changes happened over on the offensive side, or really all those changes happened over the offensive side. So it's been a lot of fun watching those guys while also trying to get an idea of, you know, what the new system and everything will look like. I think the thing that's most standoutish to me is the fact that you look at how vocal every one of those coaches are. Clint Kubiak, like, his on-camera persona, very different from his coaching persona. You know, you can hear him out there, you know, constantly, you know, checking in with everybody, giving corrections, communicating with the other coaches, all that. Andrew Janocko is a wonder to watch. It's really cool. He kind of has this what I think Dan Quinn over at the Washington Commanders called the other day, this crawl, walk, run type of approach in terms of, okay, we're going to learn this, then we're going to add this on top of it, then we're going to add coverages on top of it, then we're going to go into 7-on-7, then we're going to go into team drills, and all these other things. So he kind of scaffolds. If anybody else out there is a teacher, you talk about scaffolding and helping to build knowledge for people that are new to something, and that's something he does extremely well. He's a very good communicator as well. Keith Williams, the new wide receiver coach, loud, proud of his guys, but also calls them out when something didn't happen right, attention to detail, didn't happen right, do it again kind of attitude. Like, I love that. You see that really from all over this new offensive coaching staff, which kind of matches where Clancy Barone was already was after, starting with the team last year. And then John Benton, who comes in as a new offensive line coach, very much the same, meticulous, attention to detail, really helping guys out and everything every step of the way. So I would say that, will those things translate to wins? We'll have to wait and see. But, man, if you're looking for this team to improve this season, they're setting the right building blocks in place with this new coaching staff. That's for sure.
Get you out of here on this one, Ross. Earlier in the show, we were talking about Rashid Shaheed and the potential for him in this Clint Kubiak offense. What type of role do you see him, or let me ask it a different way. How do you see his role potentially expanding in a Clint Kubiak offense?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, part of it, one thing that I would love to see with him and that I wouldn't be surprised to see is just kind of getting him out in space a little bit more, finding ways to get him the ball off the snap on screens, things like that. The jet sweep kind of went away for him after, that was kind of the big thing that threw him onto the scene up against the Cincinnati Bengals a couple of years ago. And all of a sudden there was just none of that last year. And so I think that, a bit of that, which also helps you add in a little bit of that jet motion as well, to where you don't actually hand the ball off on them to them, but it creates opportunities to take the ball other places because of where the defense's eyes go, knowing that that's something that they can do with Rashid Shaheed. So I'm looking forward to seeing the creative ways they go about it. I know a lot of people have kind of gone to oh yeah, he's going to be the next Deebo Samuel. I'm not super sure about that because they're two very different players. But I think in terms of the principle of treating him as a yards after catch threat, as well as a guy that can pick up some yards for you with the ball in his hands, so finding a way to do that off the snap, I think that's a little bit of what you're looking for him. So he's not going to be a guy that's going to run through people the way that Deebo Samuel does, but he definitely can be a guy that can get around people in a way that Deebo Samuel can't. So I'm looking forward to seeing the way that they utilize him. I think the biggest thing is getting him in space, getting the ball in his hands in the open areas downfield to where he can create some yards after catch, as well as what he can do down the field, not erasing the deep threat field stretcher ability that he has, and then also finding a way to get him the ball off the snap.
He's one of the guys I'm most excited actually to watch in Kubiak's offense. So that's we talked about it earlier, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it as well. So, Ross, we appreciate the time as always. Y'all subscribe up to the Locked On Saints podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Ross Jackson. Nola, always a pleasure, my man. Thank you.
Always. We appreciate you. Take care. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.
You do the very same. That is Ross Jackson. We're going to grab a break, come back on the other side, wrap up the week here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Stay with us.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com. David Duvall and his team, 30 years, redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. There are a lot of people who are not over the moon with their current home. Well, you can improve where you live. One Bath and Closets is happy to help you do that. Brand new customized closet, brand new bathroom, soup to nuts. They do the entire thing for you. You don't have to call 3 different contractors to get this entire thing done. No, you make one call to One Bath and Closets. They handle the entirety of it. Maybe you're not looking for something that extensive. Maybe you're looking for something like a tub to shower conversion. They can do that as well. You don't reuse that tub. They can take it out, put a glass walk-in shower in, changes the look of your bathroom, changes the functionality of your bathroom, adds value to your home. So if down the road you're looking to move on, that's an asset that you've got right there under your roof. If you're worried about paying for it, financing options are very much available for the folks over at One Bath and Closets. It starts with a free consultation, a questionnaire, and then a plan. They get it done and they do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's One Bath and Closets. You can check them out online at onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. The Right Radio Hours return. We're recapping LSU South Carolina, getting you ready for a weekend in Hoover. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's tournament time in the SEC. Catch the SEC baseball tournament semifinals tomorrow at noon and the championship game Sunday at 2 p.m. right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Wrapping up the week here on the Hunt Palmer Show, getting ready for a long weekend, Memorial Day. We'll do so how Hunt wraps up every show with some take it or leave it.
Alrighty, first one here. Bronny James has been attracting a lot of action at sportsbooks to go number 1 overall to the Atlanta Hawks, with FanDuel reporting 30% of its tickets having James being chosen number 1 by the Hawks. BetMGM says 37% of their tickets are on James. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave the entire Bronny James.
It is crazy. It is crazy.
And let me say, I'm happy the kid's healthy. Like, that's a really scary health situation that he went through. So I'm happy he's healthy. However, he averaged like 5 points a game in college.
Yes, he did.
Just because he's LeBron James' son should not dictate that he gets a spot in the NBA, let alone the NBA draft. Now, it 100% will dictate that, but number 1 overall? No, get out of here. I'm leaving that.
Well, it's just crazy that, I mean, this is obviously unprecedented because you have to consider the fact, too, that LeBron has said that he's going to play with his son. So obviously, whichever team decides to draft Bronny, they'll most likely be getting LeBron too. So it's almost like they're not even really drafting a player. It's more so getting LeBron James.
Are they a package deal, though? Like, are we really sure that they are?
I would think so, but it remains to be seen. We'll see. But moving on here, the last one. When asked about signing a contract extension with the Cowboys, quarterback Dak Prescott said, "I don't play for money. Never have, never cared for it. Would give it up just to play this game." You believe him. Take it or leave it.
I'm leaving that too. I don't believe him. Look, money. Look, Trey Murphy kind of said one of the same things whenever they asked him about the max extension, and he said it's not about the money. I love being in New Orleans, and then he went back and said, well, I don't want to say it's not all about, but the money is important. Of course the money's important.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott would not play for free, nor should Dak Prescott play for free. No one should do, if it's your job, you don't work for free. That's not how it works. You work, you get paid. You provide a service, you get paid. In Dak Prescott's case, that's doing really well in the regular season and losing in the playoffs. That's how that works, and that's how that will continue to work. Is that the only one you have? So I'm leaving that. Dak wants his money, and for him to say that is foolish. Okay.
That's it.
Well, that's take it or leave it. Memorial Day weekend coming up here for everybody. And look, man, it's always a fun one. You got some LSU baseball to go through.
Hunt said it was in his top 3 of favorite holidays. Is that in the top 3 for you as well?
Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah.
No. It's not in the top 3.
What do you got? No. I'm guessing you got Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving for sure, because
Christmas.
Thanksgiving's also occasionally my birthday. My birthday was on Thanksgiving last year, so I love that. Thanksgiving, I do love Thanksgiving. Obviously Christmas has to be in everybody's, right? But I will go 4th of July. I like 4th of July more than Memorial Day. But regardless, enjoy your Memorial Day. It's been the Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Cork's Fried Shrimp, and Matt Moscona is coming up next to send you officially into that Memorial Day weekend.
The best kept secret in town is